Ji-hoon finally realized that his movements had always been closely monitored by the organizers. Even though he never felt like he was being watched. A sudden thought came to him. And he went to a convenience store to buy a utility knife. After inspecting his body, he discovered an issue behind his ear. Without hesitation, he sliced into the spot and removed the tracking device. Meanwhile, Jun-ho, the police officer who had been shot and thrown off a cliff by his brother, woke up from a coma. 2 years later, Jun-ho left the major crimes unit and transferred to the traffic department because no one believed him. The photo he had sent was never received. His phone couldn't be found. And no one knew where the mysterious island was located. The only evidence he had was the bullet in his shoulder. But even that led nowhere. Hello, everyone. I'm Panda Reveal. Let's dive into Squid Game Season 2. Over the past 2 years, Ji-hoon relentlessly searched for the recruiter while hiding out in a secluded motel. He had paid off his debts to the loan sharks and even hired them and their underlings to hunt for the recruiter at subway stations. Similarly, Jun-ho regularly set sail in search of the mysterious island, accompanied by Captain Park, the man who had saved his life. Within a 10-kilometer radius of the cliff where Jun-ho had fallen, there were hundreds of islands, big and small. Without knowing the exact location, finding the island where the games were held seemed nearly impossible. Despite the dangers they faced, such as venturing into treacherous waters, Captain Park felt saddened whenever Jun-ho talked about giving up. 3 years ago, it was around this time that the recruiter had handed Ji-hoon his business card. If the games were still ongoing, the recruiter would undoubtedly be out searching for new players. Not wanting to miss this opportunity and wait another year, Ji-hoon decided to increase the bounty. He announced a reward of 1 billion won and instructed the loan shark boss to gather more people. The boss declared that anyone who found the recruiter would receive an immediate reward of 500 million won. The team split into pairs and scoured subway stations, checking anyone suspicious and sending photos to Ji-hoon. After 2 years of relentless searching, despite steady pay, the underlings began to grow tired of the task. Some even thought Ji-hoon was wasting money on a wild goose chase. Suddenly, the sound of a paper slap game echoed, and across the train car, they spotted the recruiter playing the game with someone else. The boss immediately called Ji-hoon, who ordered them to follow the recruiter and wait for his arrival. The recruiter bought 100 loaves of bread, 100 lottery tickets, and went to a park. He asked a homeless man to choose between bread and a lottery ticket. The man chose the lottery ticket and scratched it, only to lose. Other homeless people also chose lottery tickets, with only a few opting for bread. Suddenly, the recruiter stood in the middle of the park, dumped all the bread onto the ground, and declared that he wasn't the one who had abandoned the bread, it was them. With that, he stomped on the bread mercilessly. The 2 men tracking him were baffled by his actions. Ji-hoon, growing impatient, sped towards the scene but was stopped by traffic police. Realizing he couldn't argue his way out, he pulled over. Meanwhile, the recruiter got into a taxi and left. The boss and his team quickly flagged down another car to pursue him while urging Ji-hoon to hurry. Ji-hoon grabbed his traffic ticket and drove off, coincidentally passing another officer, Jun-ho. Curious, Jun-ho glanced at the driver and found him oddly familiar. The recruiter stopped in a small alley, and the boss and his team hesitated before deciding to follow him. However, they were quickly overpowered and defeated by the recruiter. Jun-ho checked Ji-hoon's information. As soon as he saw Ji-hoon's photo, he immediately recognized him. Ji-hoon arrived at the location that the boss had sent him to, but no one was there. His phone was unreachable, and all he found was blood and a knife. From above, the recruiter smirked coldly as he watched Ji-hoon run off. The boss and his subordinates were captured by the recruiter and forced to play a game. The game involved rock, paper, scissors, but with a twist. First, they had to play with both hands. Then with one hand. The other hand decided the outcome, and whoever lost would face punishment. The punishment was Russian roulette. A single bullet was loaded into a revolver, and the recruiter would aim it at the loser's head and pull the trigger. The game began. The boss played rock, paper, scissors, but his subordinate failed to make any sign, leading to his elimination. The gun clicked, but there was no bullet. The game continued, and the boss lost. But again, no bullet was fired. The third round also ended without a bullet. To heighten the tension, the recruiter added 5 more bullets, reversing the survival odds from 5 out of 6 to just 1 out of 6. The game resumed. The recruiter intentionally counted quickly to confuse them. As a result, the boss showed scissors and paper, while his subordinate showed rock and rock. This forced the boss into a situation where he had to choose between his own survival or his subordinates. Unable to make a decision, he was eliminated.